Good morning, everybody. How are y'all this morning? Good. Awesome. Very cool. It's good to see that y'all trickled in from the lobby, man. We got nervous here for a second at the beginning. I was like, where is everybody today? So it's really good to see y'all. We are wrapping up a series that we have been in for a couple weeks called What If Jesus Was Serious? What If Jesus Was Serious? And we have talked about several different things. We have talked about what if Jesus was serious about knowing him, and Michael walked us through that. We talked about what if Jesus was serious about kids knowing him. If you remember that day, that was a couple weeks ago when we had all the kids in here. Okay, if you're ADD like me, anybody else, you're like, man, whoo! When there's like 50 kids in here, it's kind of hard to pay attention for me, but we got through it, and that was awesome. And then last week, Michael talked to us about what if Jesus was serious about God's provision. So today we're going to wrap up all this before Easter next week. And so today, what I want to do is I want to ask you the question, what if Jesus was serious about your image? What if Jesus was serious about your image? Now, before we move on and really dive into this, I want to define what I'm talking about when I say the word image, so that way we're all on the same page. So when I say image, this is what I mean. The external or public representation we try to display to those around us. Our image, you know what I'm talking about, the way you see other people, the way people see you. What is your image? What is your public image to people? And basically, we try and make people see us a certain way. We try and put off something to them so that way they view us a certain way. And for me, this has been a little bit of a struggle probably my entire life, okay? I think the first time I remember caring what people thought about me was maybe right around middle school, okay? Anybody else? Maybe I'm a late bloomer. I don't know. Middle school is around that time when you start to care what people think about you, what you're wearing, what you're dressing, like the clothes you have on. And that's typically how it starts, is your image is the clothes you wear and the way that you look. And growing up as a kid, I'm a millennial, so I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s. And so I can't apologize for the style that was going on then, because that's just kind of what I was stuck with, and that's what I had to work with. So maybe you had better style than me. But for a moment, you get to walk down memory lane with me, okay, and see some of Joe's previous style in history. And hopefully I'm not alone. So we're going to start off really easy. Really, this one's a good one. This is me. Oh, man, this is probably late 90s, I think. I was at Disney World, okay? And by the way, if you were a kid in the 90s, every T-shirt you owned said Old Navy. Like, that's just kind of a rule, right? Like, every shirt you had, and typically it had like an American flag or something, but it said Old Navy. That's what your shirt said. I don't know who wears Old Navy now, but if you do, I would love to see it. That'd be great. But that was me in the late 90s at Disney World. Also, my mom got my face painted. I was like 10. I don't know why that happened. Okay. And then we're going to skip over middle school because that was a really rough time. And I've already shown you pictures of me in middle school previously, so we're just not going to walk down that road again because I can't do that again. But basically, middle school me, picture super skinny and really long hair. Okay, I'm talking like to my shoulders long hair. There's only maybe like 2 or 3 people in this building that would actually remember that, who know me from back then, so that's good. But I thought I had kind of like that Jason Momoa look going on, you know what I'm saying? Yeah? Probably closer to Kenny G, if we're being honest. It was pretty tough, so we're not gonna go there again. But then one day, I found a Great Clips and some cologne and some deodorant, and I hit high school. And so this was me, this is Joe, maybe 2005, 2004. Okay, this is like early high school Joe. And I've got everything going on here. I hate to brag, but I do. Okay, have the American Eagle polo, okay, with that clean white tank, that clean white shirt underneath right there. You see it? You can just see it popping out right there. Then I've got the American Eagle belt with the shirt. Me and Brian were talking about this earlier. You just tucked it in the front. That's it. That's all you did. Mid-2000s, I don't know why we did that, but you just tuck in the front of the polo, and then I've got the matching American Eagle belt, the bleached American Eagle jeans stacked on top of a beautiful pair of Pumas. Man, 2005 was amazing. That was my jam. Now, luckily, my style has not stayed the same, and my image has not stayed the same. Really, really thankful those images aren't hanging around. And actually, you can make that image go away, please, because we don't need any more of that. Only thing that would have been better is if I had a picture of me popping the collar. Come on now, where's my millennials at? Yes, ma'am, that's right. Okay, so, but we do that. We obsess over our image, and we care about the image that we portray to people and what people see. And I wish it stopped in high school. I wish I could tell you it stopped in high school, but it just kind of carries over into adulthood for me. Except nowadays, the stuff that I use to boost my image and the outside, the things that I use to boost the way people see me and perceive me, man, it's a lot bigger than just clothes that I bought from the store. Nowadays, I try and help my image with the house that I have. I have to have a certain house. I have to live in a certain neighborhood. I need a big house. I need a nice house. And even if it's not the biggest house, at least my house, from my image, I'm going to have a clean house. And it's going to be organized. And it's going to be really pretty and smells good when people come over. Or, man, if I can be super shallow for a minute, sometimes we use relationships to make our image better. We use our marriage. I want people to think that, man, on the outside, man, my marriage, everything's good. Like, we have fun together. We take perfect pictures together. We do everything. It's great. It's great. We always do fun date nights. It's always fantastic. I love it. Everything is great. It's just a great time. On the outside, we want our marriages to make this nice, clean, public image that everything is great. Or, I mean, you're really going to judge me now. I find and boost my image in my kids now. If you got kids, woo. I mean, here's the rule, not only do I need to have good-looking kids, right? They need to be photogenic and look good and look pretty and get cleaned up, but they got to be well-behaved, right? They can't ever disrespect anybody. They got to be athletic. My kids, man, it helps my image when my kids they're stud athletes. It's good to go. Oh, and they're witty. They're super smart. They're great in school. And you might be thinking right now, Joe, you're shallow. Like, that's pretty shallow. For your image to be built on those things, that's pretty sad. But I hate to break it to you, we all do this. Me and you, okay? Like the famous movie, we're all in this together, all right? We all do this. And please don't get nervous, because I haven't done a bunch of patrolling and watching you and seeing what you care about. I haven't asked a bunch of people in your life, all that kind of stuff. No, it is way easier than that. It is way easier to see the stuff and the things and the relationships that we boost our image with and make our image look nice and pretty with. I got 2 words. Social media. Huh? Yeah, I'm friends with some of y'all on Facebook. I follow some of y'all on Instagram, okay? Social media has completely changed the game. It has given us a telescope into people's lives to see what they do, to see the things that they post. And man, don't lie to me. You don't post bad things on your social media. You don't post when your kid is throwing a temper tantrum and having a meltdown. You don't take a picture of that and post it. You don't take a selfie and be like, oh, just got in trouble at work again. You don't post it when you miss a deadline for your boss. You don't put those things up. No, what do? We put up these nice, clean pictures with these clever captions, with these cool little hashtags. We put little stickers on our pictures so people think they're fun and they're cute and they look good. Everything's good. We're good. My image looks so good. You can be at your kid's ball practice, sitting on the sideline, shivering to death, hoping and wishing your kid would just quit this sport, hating your life. And you'll take a picture and put, I love being a baseball mom, #ball_life. Like, what? No. No way. That's not what you're thinking. But that's the image you want to portray. Man, you will take hours on a Saturday. You will fight traffic. You'll get in a fight with your spouse. You will go hiking. You'll step in somebody's gum. You will sweat. You'll forget snacks. You'll hate every moment of being in the outdoors. And you just take a selfie with this beautiful mountain behind you. #blessed. Man, so good. Great time with my family today. We want to put up this image like everything is good to go. But really, is there more? Like, should we really be focused on that outside image so much? Isn't there more to our life? And is Jesus calling us to something different? Now, real quick, timeout disclaimer. This isn't a anti-big house message. This isn't a anti-success message. This isn't a you can only love Jesus if you're poor message. So go ahead and get that out of your brain. That's not what I'm talking about today. But Jesus, since this series is about what if Jesus was serious, I think we should take a serious look at what he has to say about our image, about how we portray our image to other people. So if you have a Bible with you, and again, like Michael said, we have some in the back. We'd love for you to have one if you don't. We'll be in Luke 11. Luke 11, so that's going to be in your New Testament towards the back half of your Bible. Matthew, Mark, and then you'll find the book Luke. We'll be in Luke chapter 11. And in this chapter, Jesus is teaching. He's teaching on a variety of different things. He's done a bunch of stuff. He cast a demon out of a guy. He teaches his disciples how to pray. There's a lot going on in this chapter, so I encourage you to read all of Luke 11. But we're going to pick up in verse 37. So Luke chapter 11, verse 37, it says this. As he was speaking, this is Jesus, so Jesus is teaching. As he was speaking, a Pharisee asked him to dine with him. Now, this is actually pretty unusual. A Pharisee back then would have been a Jewish religious leader. And this is the group of people that Jesus clashed with and butted heads with the most, was the Pharisees. Those are the people that he disagreed with the most, and they did not get along typically. And so, as Jesus is teaching, this Pharisee invites him basically over for lunch. Like, hey, Jesus, come on over. Let's grab a bite real quick. So it's actually kind of a cool, interesting scene that we see here. Let's keep reading, though. So he, being Jesus, went in and reclined at the table. When the Pharisee saw this, he was amazed that he did not first perform the ritual washing before dinner. Now, of course, Jesus, like right off the bat, man, he rocks the boat. He does not keep up with the cultural norm of the day. This guy that he was going to have lunch with, the Pharisee, would have been an expert in Jewish law. He would have been an expert in what the Old Testament said, what the commands were, but then he also would have been an expert in tradition, things that had kind of developed culturally for the Jews over time. And he would have held to those traditions very strictly. And so when he sits down for a meal, he would have, before that, gone and done some traditional, some ritual washing. And this wasn't like a sanitary thing. So pause real quick. Don't think that Jesus, you gross, he didn't wash his hands before lunch, okay? This isn't like a sanitary issue. This ritual washing for a Pharisee would have been basically an outward show to show, hey, I don't have any sin right now, and it's okay that I eat. Like I'm clean. I'm ritually clean, and it's okay for me to eat. But Jesus doesn't do that. And I love how the passage says that the Pharisee was amazed. But let's keep reading and see what happens. But the Lord said to him, now you Pharisees, you clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside you are full of greed and evil. Jesus, he makes me laugh all the time when I read the Bible. I don't know why, but right here, this is a funny moment for me because this guy, if you look back in the previous verse, the guy doesn't say anything. Like, he doesn't even call Jesus out. Jesus reads his mind. Jesus knows his thoughts and begins calling him out on this. This poor guy just invited Jesus over for lunch, and Jesus starts calling him out. Jesus is communicating a point here and using an illustration right in front of him, a dish that they would have been using for lunch, saying that they only clean the outside. The Pharisees, with themselves, they only clean the outside, but they don't pay attention to the inside. And this is where Jesus points out the Pharisee's first bad habit that he has, and it's also a bad habit that I have, and I would bet it's a bad habit that you have. And it's this. This is the first thing. We focus too much on the outside. We focus too much on the outside. You and I are pretty good at this. We love to focus on what people can see. We like to present this like pretty polished, nice, cleaned up, looks good image to people. And we maybe try and do that with a certain house or, a certain look. We want to have a certain car, our kids to make a certain team, but we try and make this certain image and we focus too much on the outside. And if I can make a confession, I have a reason for doing this. Like, I have a reason why I focus too much on the outside, and it might be a reason that you have too. And it's because the inside is a wreck. Like, the inside is a wreck. I can control and clean up the outside, but the inside is a wreck, and I don't want anyone to see it. I don't want anyone to see what's going on the inside. I want to keep everyone distracted over here with this outside image that I can put on because I don't want them to see what's going on the inside. I don't want them to see how stressed I am. I don't want them to see the anxiety that I deal with in my life. I don't want them to know really what's going on in my marriage or what's really actually happening with my kids. Because if they saw that, if people saw that on the outside, my image would be completely destroyed. This man that Jesus was talking to, he would have been someone that on the outside looked like he had it all together. And culturally, in the Jewish culture back then, he would have kept all the commands, he would have had all the right clothes, but he would have been using religious devotion to make his image look better, which was a thing that people did back in the New Testament times. They would use religious devotion to try and impress people with how good I am and how nice my life is. But this devotion to God was not with a clean heart. This guy was not truly in love with God. He didn't love other people. He didn't love God. Instead, he wanted to appear a certain way. He wanted to appear good and cleaned up. He wanted his image to boost himself and make himself look like he had it all together. But Jesus continues on. He does not let up on this poor guy. He just keeps on going. Verse 40, Jesus says, "Fools, didn't he who made the outside make the inside too? But give from what is within to the poor, and then everything is clean for you. But woe to you Pharisees, you give a tenth of mint and rue and every kind of herb, and you bypass justice and love for God. These things you should have done without neglecting the others." Jesus makes a point here that you and I need to hold on to, and this is it. The inside matters more than the outside. The inside matters more than the outside. What's going on the inside matters way more. Look back at what Jesus says. He tells this guy to just give from within to the poor. He doesn't set a number. He doesn't set a dollar amount. He doesn't set a certain number of serving hours for this guy to do. He just tells him, hey, give from within. Whatever you are called to give, whatever you feel compelled to give, whatever you're convicted to give, that's how you should give. And this is in complete contrast to how Pharisees lived. Complete contrast. Look at verse 42. He says, "But woe to you Pharisees, you give a tenth of mint, rue, and every kind of herb, and you bypass justice and love for God. These things you should have done without neglecting the others." Man, the Pharisees, they followed it by the book. They didn't miscalculate anything. They gave a certain perfect number amount that they were supposed to give, so that way people saw them giving that amount. They made sure the outside was nice and clean. They wore the certain clothes that they had to wear. They did the certain things outside that they had to do, but it didn't change the inside. They knew everything about God, but they didn't let it change their heart. They didn't let it change what was going on the inside. They did not let it sink in and make their hearts love God more and love other people more. And Jesus calls out the fact that their hearts were not changed. Like, Jesus he's not playing around about this. He's not gonna, he sees, that they were doing the showy stuff, the outward stuff, and he says, man, like you didn't have to neglect people. You still could have loved me while you did that. You could have done the easy outside stuff without having a calloused heart. And Jesus does not let up on this religious leader. He keeps going. He keeps talking to him. Let's look at verse 43. "Woe to you Pharisees! You love the front seat in the synagogues. I don't think anybody likes the front seat in our church. It's okay. It's fine. We'll get there. It's okay. You love the front seat in the synagogues and greetings in the marketplaces. Woe to you. You are like unmarked graves. The people who walk over them don't even know it. Jesus points out how Pharisees, they loved attention. They loved attention. They loved being greeted by their title in front of people. They loved it when people recognized them and saw them in public. They wanted, that attention felt good for them. And you and I, we can't pretend like that's not us too sometimes. I bet back in the day, if the Pharisees were around now, they would have loved Instagram. They would have loved social media. You could see a Pharisee, man, waking up, 6 o'clock in the morning. They get their phone out. They got their Bible. They take a picture of their Bible with a cup of coffee, a little lamp on in the background. They're like, hey, just having some Java and some Jesus time, okay? They just want to make sure everybody knows, hey, I'm up early. I'm with Jesus. I'm reading the Bible. It's all good. Or, hashtag caffeine with Christ. I don't know. They would do something. They would make sure that people see the things that they were doing. They loved this outside attention. And I'm not trashing, if you post a picture of your Bible on social media, I'm not trashing that. But the Pharisees loved this attention that they would get for their outward devotion. Pharisees, I picture them, I don't know, I grew up in church. I don't know if you did or not, but I grew up in church. And people from churches go and do mission trips to like impoverished countries and stuff like that. And people will go to these countries. They'll take what I call it's the mission trip selfie. Have you ever seen the mission trip selfie? Okay, maybe not. Let me explain it to you. A mission trip selfie is you go and you pay and you go to serve in another country that's in need. Maybe there's like a shortage of food or something, but you go and you find like the worst looking person that you can find in that country, and you lean over and you take a selfie with them and you take a picture and you post that. Oh, just helping people out, just serving right now. And that person in that picture is like, that doesn't help anything at all, actually. I could just see Pharisees taking the mission trip selfie and posting it on social media and getting tons of comments and likes because they loved it when they got their outward performance affirmed and celebrated. There is a serious message here that Jesus is trying to communicate to this Pharisee. It's at the end. It's in verse 42. Jesus says, woe to you. You are like unmarked graves. The people who walk over them don't know it. Now, in Jewish culture, and to me nowadays, the most unclean thing would have been a grave or a dead body. The Jews would have been very intentional about marking graves. That way, if someone touched a grave, that way they would avoid becoming ritually unclean, basically. If they touched a grave or if they touched a dead body, it would have taken a ton of time and effort and ritual stuff to get them cleansed back right and able to go back to the temple after touching a grave or a dead body. So they marked their graves so no one would accidentally become unclean. But Jesus is telling this man, he's telling you and I something as well. And it's this. Only being clean on the outside is worthless. Only being clean on the outside is completely worthless. Having a cleaned up image with a bad heart is worthless. There's no value in it. Having a cleaned up outside with an unclean heart, that's a dead end road. There's nothing good that comes from that. There is no value in that. Now, honestly, as I was reading through this passage, I got to the end of it, and I encourage you to read the rest of chapter 11. I got to the end, and I was like, is Jesus serious? Like, is he really serious right now? I feel like he harped on this guy really hard. I feel like this Pharisee man, it was a simple lunch invite. Could you imagine, invite me for lunch, and I just start, berating you about these things you're doing in your life? It was just a lunch invite, man. But there's an important lesson that Jesus is trying to communicate to this guy. And it's a lesson that you and I need to learn too. Jesus really brought it to this Pharisee and said all these things because this Pharisee was obsessed with glorifying himself. He was obsessed with putting the spotlight on himself and making his image look good on the outside, but his heart was evil and full of greed, and his heart was not clean. And I think Jesus is serious about this Pharisee's image, and he's serious about our image too, because this is true. Self-promotion is idolatry. Self-promotion is idolatry. This might sound extreme, but what this Pharisee was doing is he had taken God off of his throne and put himself there. He had taken God out of his place and put himself in that place. This Pharisee made himself God by being in love with his own performance, with his own image, with the good things that he did. That's where he found his purpose. That's where this Pharisee found his joy, his happiness. He made himself God because to himself he did all the right things on the outside. He had pushed God out of his heart, and he did not let God change him on the inside. He did not surrender his motives and his purpose to God. He did not give God his heart. He did not let God clean up the inside. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want this to be me. I want to somehow avoid putting myself where I should put God. I want to avoid taking myself and putting myself on the throne of my life. And I want to avoid that, especially if that is a pointless endeavor. And I would guess that you want to do that as well. You don't want to do that, so maybe that's why you're here. So ultimately, what should we do then? What can we do? Well, what needed to happen in this Pharisee's life is what needs to happen in our life. Ultimately, Jesus has to become the most important thing in our life. That sounds a little cliche, but Jesus really genuinely has to be the most important thing in our life. And a practical way for us to understand or maybe remember this would be this. We have to clean the inside before the outside. We have to clean the inside before the outside. If the inside is dirty, it really doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. If we're going to take Jesus serious about our image, we have to look at the inside before we worry about the outside. And let's make this super practical. The first thing we need to do to get the inside cleaned up is this. You need to surrender to Jesus. You need to surrender. You need to stop trying to be so worried about your outside image and doing all these external things and making your life look good, when on the inside, your life is a mess, your heart is a wreck. Let's not be obsessed with things that are temporary. We need to go to Jesus with our junk and surrender it to him. That might mean you surrender your life to him. You cry out and say, Jesus, forgive me. I want to make you Lord. Or for those of us that are already followers, there's some stuff still in your life maybe you need to bring to him and say, Jesus, I need your help with this. Here's the broken parts of my life. Here's the messed up part. I'm done with the outside image because guess what? Jesus can see it all anyway. Like, why are you going to keep hiding behind something that he sees right through? He sees what's going on in your heart. He could read this Pharisee's thoughts. He can see what's going on the inside. Your neighbor might not be able to see your brokenness. I might not be able to see your brokenness. But Jesus, man, the things that we try and use to impress people on the outside, it doesn't impress him. Our social media, our clothes, our possessions, our bank account, our physical fitness. Man, he wants your heart. That's what he wants. He wants you to surrender to him. That is the first thing that we have to do to get the inside cleaned up. The second thing we need to do, we need to live with a forever mindset. We need to live with a forever mindset. Not everything in this life will last forever. Not everything in this life will last forever. Your clothes, one day somebody's going to be picking those off the rack at Goodwill, and they're going to get a slick deal too, okay? It's going to be great. The car that you drive, one day somebody else will drive. The home that you live in, one day somebody else will live in that home. Our image, we've so often built it on things that are not eternal. When really we should be focusing on what is going to last forever. Don't let your identity be built on things that are temporary. Don't let your image be built on what is temporary and only going to last for right now. The Apostle Paul, he wrote a lot of the New Testament. He wrote lots of letters to different churches right after, soon after Jesus had left earth. So, long time ago. But in 2 Corinthians, he was writing a letter to a church in Corinth. And in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 18, Paul reminds us this. So we do not focus on what is seen, but on what is unseen. For what is seen is what? Temporary. But what is unseen is eternal. So why would we spend so much time and effort being obsessed with what is temporary and only focusing on the image built on things that are temporary? Instead, we need to focus on what is eternal. Your soul is eternal, and so is mine. When it comes down to it, we have to choose between focusing on the inside or the outside. We have to choose which one are we going to focus on. We either give Jesus our inside and let him clean us from the inside out, or we focus on the temporary exterior image of our lives. Between those two, one of them gives you a relationship with your Creator, and the other one might impress people for a couple minutes. That's what you have to choose. As we surrender to Jesus, and hopefully as you live with a forever mindset, we're able to focus our attention on cleaning the inside before the outside. But I want to give you maybe like a little bit of like a beacon, a little bit of a North Star, a little bit of a goal, something I want you to focus towards. Paul lays out this goal in the book of Romans. He was writing to the church in Rome and trying to really help them focus on what was important and focus on what their life should be focused on. And in Romans chapter 8, Paul says this. Sorry, I skipped a slide. Sorry, Andy. For those he foreknew, he predestined to be what? Conformed to the image of his Son, so that he would be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. Ultimately, anyone that's a follower of Christ, our ultimate number one goal should be to live a life that reflects Jesus. We should be a copy of him to the world here where we live. When people see you, when people see me, our goal should be for them to see Jesus. His image is the only image that matters. It doesn't change anybody's life if the image they see on you is success in your career. That doesn't change anybody else's life. It doesn't change anyone's life if they see my perfect photogenic family smiling with a pretty background. That doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anyone's life to see me at another perfect vacation destination, boosting my image and making myself look good. But if your neighbor looks at you and they see Jesus, that changes everything. If they can look at you and see Jesus, that opens up the door for you to share this hope that we have, that there's more to this life, that we will spend eternity somewhere, that we can have forgiveness and life in Jesus. That opens up the door for you to introduce them to this Jesus who has changed your life, not only here, but for eternity. I really hope that we can leave and remember that our image should not even be about us. Our image should all be about him. Our image should be all about Jesus. When our image reflects the one who loves us, who made us, who died for us, that gives life. If your image is a reflection of Jesus, your coworker will see that and want what you have. If your image is a reflection of Jesus, then your kids will see that and see that you have an authentic faith that actually matters. If your image is a reflection of Jesus, then those relationships that have been broken, you'll be able to make progress with them and share the gospel with those people. I know a lot of times when it comes down to our image, for me, it's all about trying to make people want what I have on the outside. I want to make people want what I have. And usually that's in temporary things that don't matter. So stuff, possessions, status. But instead of those things, if we have, let's make our image a reflection of Jesus and then make them want what we have. Let's make them want this relationship with God that we have. Let's use our image to reflect who Jesus is. So that way people will want what we have and it'll actually be a good thing. Let's make them want the love that we have, our joy, our kindness, our patience, our goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Let those things be what people see in us as a reflection of who Jesus is so that they will want what we have. But it all has to start with us, and it all has to start on the inside. It has to start on the inside. As we leave, here's a couple questions for you. The first one is this. What is your image built on? What is your image built on? Is it your status? Is it your career? Is it in what you have or what you do? What is your image built on? Second question is this. What on the inside needs to go? What on the inside needs to go? Jesus called out some specific things to that Pharisee. He said he was full of greed and evil. What is on your inside? Is what you have on the inside a reflection of who Jesus is? Is it changing you from the inside out? If not, what on the inside needs to go? And lastly, how can you live with a forever mindset? Or are you living with a forever mindset? Have you thought about that? How can you live with a forever mindset? What needs to change in your life to show that you are living with a forever mindset? I think Jesus was serious about our image. And I think it should be pointing to him. Let's pray. Jesus, thank you for this morning. Thank you for allowing us to gather as a church. God, we're so grateful for the ability to get together to learn about you and to worship you. Thank you for the worship that we had. Thank you for your word. Lord, we are just so grateful for this season as we lead up to Easter. God, I pray that as we go to our homes and to our workplaces and to our friends and family, God, we would stop worrying about this external image that is temporary, that we try and hide behind and boost and make look prettier than it really is. And Lord, instead that we would take your word seriously and that we would look on the inside and allow you to change us from the inside out. God, I pray that we would surrender to you. I pray that we would surrender our hearts and our motives and our purpose to who you are. God, I ask that you will help us to live with a forever mindset, knowing that some things are eternal and some things are not. Help us to remember which one of those things are and to prioritize the things that are eternal and not worry about the things that are temporary. Jesus, I ask that if we've taken you off of your throne and we've put ourselves there, I pray that you would convict us. I pray that you would give us the will and the conviction to take ourselves off of the throne of our lives and to put you at the center. Instead of worshiping ourselves and promoting ourselves, God, I pray that you would be glorified in all of our lives and everything that we do. And we're so grateful for all you did for us on the cross and how you defeated death so we could spend eternity with you. And it's all in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.